When it comes to leadership and leading, not all leadership is the same. When we progress up the organization, we take promotions, new assignments, new roles. It requires us to learn new skills to be effective at each different level. That's why leadership is so dynamic. When we get promoted, level 1, for example, those skills won't necessarily serve you at level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5 up to CEO level, but they will have a compound interest effect within your leadership. Now, let's have a look behind me to see what, to actually see what I mean and to understand a little bit more. Now, what you have down at the bottom here is the individual contributor, technically excellent at your job. And that's probably what's got you promoted. So you could be a sales gun, IT whiz, maybe great with finance and numbers. That's got you promoted at level 1. Now, level 1, you may be in charge of 1, 2 to 6 people. So you're in charge of a little team or a small department. Level 2 now, you're now a manager. So you're managing an area. You got a lot more people to manage. You're looking at planning, managing resources and time. Level 3, now you are starting to transition into more transformational, more into a leadership role. So now you are leading a function. Maybe it is payroll, maybe it is a small IT function or the sales function of your organization. Level 4, now you're an executive. So now you may be an executive of a business unit, one of many within a large organization, requires new skills as we go through. And then finally, level 5 is the CEO. So you've made it, you've worked your whole career to get to this point. So what does it require at our different levels? So if we have a look on this side here, we've got focus. And what I'm talking about here is 90%. So down at the individual contributor, we're looking at 90% being operationally focused. So the day-to-day details and doing the job, and then 10% being strategic. So looking at what's coming down the pipeline, are my actions aligning to where we need to go? When we get up to level 1, our team leader, one of the biggest challenges is for us to detach. So we need to detach from our peers. We need to create a bit of distance for us to be effective, because now we used to be a peer, now we're leading our peers. 80% still operational, but then now 20% moving towards strategic focus. So looking at the person who is our manager, okay, what's happening with them? How can I be effective and support them? As we move up to level 2 now, as a manager, we have 60% focus on operational. So you can already start seeing it's less focus on the day-to-day details and more on the strategic focus of 40%. The biggest challenge is around empowerment. Okay, it's around delegating effectively, putting strategies in place we talked about on previous videos, and empowering people, giving them a mandate for action and keeping them accountable, not micromanaging, but actually true empowerment. As we move up again as a leader, now it's 40% operational. So those day-to-day details, and 60% more involvement within strategy, within longer term planning. So we're looking at that 2 to 5 year time horizon. Our biggest challenge is communicating. So communicating the vision, the mission, the values of the organization. What are the fundamental strategic priorities we need to achieve in this quarter, in this 6 months, in this year, for example. So we need to really learn how to communicate. As we move up to an executive, a bigger area, like I mentioned, a business unit, now we need to think around influencing and persuading others. So we need to now start thinking around strategic alliances, looking outside of the box, 80% strategic, 20% on the detail, and building influence and a persuasion across the business and across different areas. And as you can see, we're starting to have more and more different, maybe diverse teams, diverse functions. So we need to be able to influence them effectively. And then finally, as a CEO, it's around humility. We're looking now 5 to 10 years, we're looking at innovation, what's going to be impacting our business from a global level, maybe a national level. And when I mention humility, there's a really good book, Good to Great by Jim Collins, and he mentioned the 5 different levels of leadership. And at level 5, which is the best leader, it's around humility, being humble. ego-less. What they found is at this level, the greatest CEOs use the words we and us and our vision and our mission rather than I. This is what I did. This is where we're heading. I did this. Initially, it's good for business, but over time, longevity, the ego-driven CEO doesn't perform half as well as the humble CEO. And that's a really good book. I suggest you read that. As we progress up the organization, we get less and less opportunity for feedback. So to be successful within an organization, number one, you need to identify what level you're currently at, identify the challenges, and put a bit of a plan into place when we're thinking about it. In an organizational structure, it is pretty fluid. So it's identifying those challenges and looking at, okay, what is the next step in the ladder that I want to aspire to be? Let's start putting plans in place. I mentioned on previous video, have a think around a minimum of a 3-year journey. So identifying what the challenge is, putting a plan in place, then making that a system, and then identifying, right, for me to empower, what do I need to do? What I find in an organization is this is the crux here, moving from that 60 to that 40% focus when we're looking at operational details. So, and this is where when you communicate, you need to really be putting some great systems around whips, around team meetings, around reporting back to make sure people are still online to achieve the strategic priority for that quarter. What is the key takeaway? Leadership is dynamic. What served you at level 1 won't necessarily serve you at the next couple of levels. Feedback is critically important to identify what you need to develop at each different level. As we move up the chain, feedback becomes less and less, and our focus now needs to move from being more operational details focused to be more strategic. We need to start finding, as we move up, mechanisms for feedback for us to be successful. And that is how you lead at level.